It's time for more coaching and coffee talk. Today, my good friend Cady Huffman. Cady Huffman is proudly an old fart with good stories. From her days as a teenage drag queen to Ziegfeld's favorite showgirl on Broadway, and as Larry David's potential 10th anniversary present, she has been in many very interesting rooms. She earned a Tony Award for her portrayal of a Swedish Bombshell and then ate her way through 10 seasons on Iron Chef America. She has danced for Bob Fosse, has long been a wannabe Coloratura, and knows that the story of her life is much more interesting than her life. Her motto, why you've got it, flaunt it. Yes, Queen.
That's it. Yes, Queen. Girl, thank you. This is my coffee today. I hope you don't mind.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, to the point, you're hydrating, because what I was thinking is you're really a professional athlete. Only professional athletes tend to retire at a
Make
certain
more
age,
money.
and you just keep on going. But as we talked about a little bit on what the kind of general focus today that I wanted to talk about is how your body does change as you get older, as you go through menopause, and you're trying to keep firing on all cylinders, and you're trying to keep somewhat the same physique going. And it's been a long career for you, because it started really for you with ballet dancing, which can be very rough on the body at a young age, right?
Yeah, I started studying ballet at 7. It's truly the first love of my life. I mean, I loved how hard it is, how it really forces you to completely change your physique if you want to be good at it. You know, you have to do things that are not natural. And I guess, I've always been very strong, but not very flexible. But the dance part of it, the athlete, you're right, it is. I mean, if anybody really knows ballet, they are probably, I think it's been proven that ballerinas, the women, are the strongest athletes per pound.
Oh yeah, relative strength, yeah.
Relative strength. It's like ballerinas are it. You know, they have no fat.
I believe it.
Just muscle, muscle, muscle. And what they do with, I always say, well, what did we do when we were ballerinas and our feet were bleeding and we had blisters and a slight sprain in our ankles? We smiled. You just
smiles.
You never let the audience know. You just I'm not sure I have any relationship to pain anymore. Like, my feet feel nothing. So
yeah. And how many years did you go with just the ballet training?
Well, I hardly did just anything growing up, but ballet I did 7 to 40. I could really still do it.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And then I remember the lesson where my body suddenly fell apart. I was in class and suddenly I couldn't do things. And there had been doctors, both Eastern and Western doctors, saying, what have you done to your body? I was like, just kept on powering through. Around 40 is when ballet class became impossible, which was very sad. Yeah. So it's been a while since I've been able to do that. So I've had to find other things to, keep me in shape and get me some sort of the joy, the way that gave me joy.
Yeah. And what kind of things were starting to show up? Was it the hips or knees?
It wasn't one thing. It was everything.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to say, because what might have been the catalyst, which I was really dumb at the time. I had abdominal surgery and, that affected everything, but it didn't make sense to me that it would affect everything. So I went to my vocal teacher. I'm like, why can't I hit these notes? She's like, well, has anything happened recently? I'm like, no, not really. And then we're singing some more. And I go, oh, well, I did just have abdominal surgery. She's like, Cady,
they just cut through my diaphragm.
They just cut everything in half. I've been cut in half. Does that affect anything? So I think it severely, and now that I think about it, because it was at 40 that I had that done, I think it just discombobulated my core so that, I had no attached the attachment of my top to my bottom was the signals were not firing anymore.
Mm.
So it didn't feel like pain. It just felt like I couldn't do it. I couldn't lift my leg. I couldn't balance. I couldn't, every time I did what I was accustomed to, jump or spin, I was not on kilter.
Mm.
It was very troubling.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you. I just figured that out. All these years
We
later.
live, we learn.
Yes.
So at what age were you, and how did you start diversifying into other things? So here you were, a little ballerina. Or were you little ballerina then, or were you also one of the tallest ballerinas?
I was never little. I was we called ourselves the Amma Swans.
Emma Swan.
Because we were Amma Swans. We grow them real big in Santa Barbara, California. Everybody's real tall. So there we had a lot of tall ballerinas, and some of them did go on, but the Amma Swans were me and my best friend and others. But yeah, so I was always tall for the sport.
And did you have a sense, or did anyone say to you, by the way, you might be a little tall?
It's not hard to see it yourself, but it's not impossible to be a tall ballet dancer. It's not impossible at all. There are certainly different companies that hire taller dancers.
Yeah.
But if I wanted to be in American Ballet Theater or New York City Ballet, it was not very likely. But as much as I loved ballet, I started studying voice when I was 9, because this great local teacher, Mrs. Dolis, heard me sing, and she offered to train me. So I could always sort of belt and be loud. So she wanted to train my soprano. So I started studying opera when I was 9. And that was about 9 to 16. I really heavily studied opera. And she was just one of those old school teachers who really just worked out my middle voice, middle, because I could belt and I could sing real high, but is that break in your middle voice. So I was just always singing these things that just were so hard. But she really gave me a technique that has served me very well throughout my career. So yeah, I started doing opera at 9, first acting workshop at 6, got my picture in the paper, and then I was just sold, that's it, gonna do that. And then at 16, I had a ballet scholarship in New York City. So I spent the summer in New York. And that's the first time I really took a jazz class. I took a Luigi's jazz class. And I was taking 18 classes a week. And then it was just like heaven. And it's also at 11 and 12, I was put into the company. So we started being exposed to different kind of things. And, one of my nicknames in my ballet class was Ethel, for Ethel Merman. So you're not really known for your voice in ballet, but my ballet teachers saw the potential of Ethel Merman in ballet class. So yeah, I always kind of just did everything, including play the baritone horn, a little bit of piano,
And what about,
I was busy.
What was the first foray into acting? Or
when I was 6 years old, I took a workshop. We did the Pied Piper of Hamelin. I had one line. I said, "Here they come," and got my picture in the paper. And then, for fun, in my crazy ass household, which was constant singing, dancing, punching, everything, farting on each other, whatever it was. We also, for fun, read, yeah. Because farts are hilarious. But we also read Shakespeare out loud for fun. So that's one way into that part of what I do. And then when I was 23, I was already working, and I sent myself to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art to really study Shakespeare for the summer. But I started serious acting classes when I acted throughout my childhood in this great community theater. And then I really started studying seriously when I was 17.
Wow. So you really, I thought it was ballet for a long time. Then you got into some other stuff, but it really has been everything all at once. Triple threat
Everything
from the
all at
start.
once.
Yeah.
Always. And I was a cheerleader on the drill team and, you know, rally committee and junior class treasurer and anything to get me out of the house.
Oh, geez. Okay. So underachiever.
Utterly. Skipped a grade.
And so let's talk, because we talked a bit about, and you thought it was quite important to talk about aging in general, or aging in your business, and the adjustments that you go through. When did you start?
Yes.
When did you start thinking, hey, this is not as easy as it used to be? I mean, you know the ballet story, but even in terms of music theater.
Well, I was through with menopause at 45. So I was on the early end of that. I didn't really think I'm done. It was, my doctor was like, you can't be in menopause. Look at you. I'm like, believe me. And they did like tests. Like, yeah, I skipped a grade. Let me tell you what's happening with my body. and they called me back and they're like, Cady, if you ever bleed again, call us. It will be an emergency. You are done. Like, my numbers were kaput. There was no chance. But I didn't think too much of it because I still felt really good. I was still the same size I'd always been. You know, from 14 to 50, I was virtually the same size. So really at 50, which I think is a turning point for most people, is when my same old habits stopped working. And it's taken me 8 years to kind of wake up out of that. You know, there's like for me, there was a stubbornness in, why isn't this working? You know, and feeling like a failure because it no longer worked, and feeling, you know, badly about myself because it wasn't working. And it's very recently that I kind of had to wake up to what was going on, because I think the way particularly American women talk about menopause, I don't know about women all over the world, but, you know, an older woman is not admired. You know, it is considered, you're considered old once you've been through it, and you stop being hired so much, and you stop being desirable within our culture. And I just really resisted buying into any of that. I did not want to buy into it, and I don't buy into it, but it was, you know, it was time for me to understand that though this body had taken me so far, I also have a good brain. So my brain needs to make its offering much more now than my body does. But as you know, Scott, because we started working with each other a few months ago, my body's, I'm finding my way. I'm finding my way using my own definitions and my own way of thinking of things, because I get really bogged down in how other people think about these things. It really troubles me to hear other women about my age and how they talk about themselves and how they talk about all of us as a group and what's going to happen and how you're going to feel. It's really, I find it very damaging. So I had to find my own way to think about it. You know, I keep on hearing, because my mom went through menopause at around 45 as well. She gained 40 pounds, but she's 5'2". You know, now she's under 5 feet. She's 90 years old, but at 5'2", 40 pounds looks different than 40 pounds looks on me. I'm 5'9". But she gained it and she never lost it. And so when it happened to me, I went, well, I guess this just happens in my family's hormones, body types, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I realized that was stifling my own growth because I'm not my mother. I have her genes, I have her personality, but I also have my own path in life,
Yeah.
So she was a single mother of 3 kids. She was poor, she was struggling, working several jobs. I just think her life was very different than my life. And God bless her for the path she chose, was to take care of all of us. So that's not my life. I don't have children. I am doing fine. I'm doing fine. I'm certainly not wealthy, but I'm doing fine. I own my own house. So it was time for me to just find my own way. I have a very strict spiritual practice. And as I do that day by day, I learn more and more about myself. And what I was hearing, you just shut me up. Whenever I get, if it's too boring, let me know. But
Well, I wanted to ask one thing before we get too far into it, because you talked about how, because we had talked previously about how, and you mentioned just now how some of your habits weren't working anymore. And you had said that you used to show, like, you get a part on Broadway, or for instance, and you may show up a few pounds overweight, and in the rehearsal process, it just goes flying off of you, and you're in fighting shape by opening night. But that was one of the things you said you noticed that wasn't happening anymore.
Not at all. It wasn't happening at all anymore. I've always been a really good eater. I'm not a junk food person. I eat well. I was just eating too much and not understanding what different types of food were doing to literally just my weight. So I wasn't eating anything outrageous. But when I was trying, intermittent fasting and all that stuff that you boys can do, and suddenly you're 15 pounds lighter, and it just changes for women. The messaging I was getting from people on television, from experts, was, well, I literally heard, well, it's just like when you were 35, fewer calories in than out. And I was like, you can't say that, because at 35, I didn't have to diet. Like, if I do it the way I did it when I was 35, that's what I'm doing. And it's not working. So I went on to an app that's psychologically based. I went on to Noom, and I started reading. They send you something to read every day. And then watching my calories, which I'd literally never done, weighing myself every day. Ugh. What? I have to know this number. So now it's been about 3 months. I've dropped 20 pounds in those 3 months. And
can I ask you, in Noom, do they do age specific things in Noom? Like, do they talk about,
they
you're over
claim
50?
to?
Okay.
Yeah, they claim to. They have their what do you call those things? Whatever they do to figure out what it is. Because I wrote to them and said,
so
this
it's like
isn't working.
Tailored to your age and everything like that.
It says they are, and I said this isn't working, and they said, well, we can't really lower your calorie intake. It's all based on age and blah blah blah. So I know that for me to lose weight on Noom, and I think 6 pounds a month is a pretty reasonable rate to lose. It's not sudden. I have to be at the lowest calorie. There's like a range, and I have to stick very close to the lowest of that range for me in order to lose weight. But what it really did for me was get into my own psychology of why I'm eating the way I'm eating, learning what I'm putting into my body. They just teach you a lot of tricks and a lot of ideas that might be helpful, and it's like literally what I read this morning included the Serenity Prayer. So I'm like, well, wow. Somebody's in a 12-step program who did this Noom thing. But it's been very helpful. So yes, it is a matter of me putting fewer calories in than out. But I'm finding after menopause that means I have to learn a whole new way of living, just a whole new way of living.
Yeah.
It was a wake up call, like literally waking up from
Yeah.
a
And
lifetime of
I
how I
mean,
look.
I've noticed a different, of course, I am a man and have a different story than you, but I noticed that, uh, especially into my 50s and mid 50s, I started kind of looking around and being like, what do I want to do in my life? You know, it was less about how I look and just like, what do I still want to be able to do? You know, I still want to be able to, you know, squat. I want to be able to climb stuff. I want to be able to act like a monkey and whatever, run around, play with my kids and things like that. How much is like, you know, has your focus changed to that kind of stuff? Like how well you can function in your life as opposed to how well you're looking, that whole
Yeah,
balance.
absolutely. And you know what? Even before I started losing weight, I was fine with the way I looked. And I was probably more at ease with the way I looked than I ever had been, even at my height of my physical prowess. You know, from 17 to 3 months ago, and 17 before I started to 50, I had had people calling me big, asking me, don't gain an ounce. Can you lose 5 pounds? And I look at those pictures of me at that time, like, what made you ever think that girl needed to lose 5 pounds? I'm tall, I'm athletic, I have broad shoulders, but I had zero fat. I wasn't fat. I was sexy. I was curvy. I have hips and I have shoulders and I have boobs and legs. And so I wasn't stick thin. So, but all that got into my head. So I hated my body when it was at its best.
And that
I
was people in the
hated it.
business, kind of in show
Yeah,
business.
and in the business, and I gotta say, not the people closest to me,
Mm.
but it just took one agent saying, "How long have you had?" When I was 17, "How long have you had this weight problem?" And literally, I was like, "Weight problem? What weight problem?" And it was the 80s. I think I was wearing an oversized sweater, and I think he took that to mean that I was hiding something. But oh shit, do I need to, what weight problem? I had never thought of it as a weight problem because I didn't have a weight problem. So yeah, and then different shows. I had the type of body that I was, like designers loved to build costumes on me. They were
Mm.
so excited to have a dancer that had a body, that was not just flat, no hips. And then I'd have my directors telling me to lose weight. So was getting praised and criticized at the same time. And I'm sure because I was, uh, just like every young person, hard on myself, I mostly heard the
The negative stuff.
the messages that were saying I wasn't good enough. Yeah, the
Mm.
negative ones. So that was just very real to me. So at 50, I started working on myself more and I became much more at ease with how I looked. But I also gained a lot of weight and got high blood pressure and high cholesterol. So, what do I want to be able to do? I want to be able to not take medication
Mm.
for that kind of ailment. And just last week was the first time after losing 20 pounds that I had a normal blood pressure reading. So it's working. And to be perfectly honest, as I do, I was accepting of the way I looked. It was fine. I'm almost 60 years old. But as I have lost the weight, I go, oh, well, there's my face. There's a face that I recognize.
Oh, my
Oh,
cheekbones.
like I just like, oh, I do like that better.
Yeah.
But I don't want to espouse that that's the reason I'm doing it.
Mm.
It's a very complex reason I'm doing it. I want to be healthy. I want to be able to paddleboard, kayak, walk on the beach, take long walks, hike, do shows, sing well. I want to feel athletic, and I do. feel athletic. And what you said to me a few weeks ago, when you said, about these micro workouts that you've been doing, and we started doing them, you said it helps me play with my children. Because you said if I did CrossFit and wore myself out, I'd go home, sit on the couch and say, go play with yourself. I can't do this. Whereas if you do these micro workouts, it gives me, and I know it gives you such energy, and you have an 11-year-old son,
You're like primed for movement.
Yeah. And so understanding how to sort of gauge that I cannot compare myself to that girl who jumped with the boys in ballet class and stood on her toes and spun around. And, I can't compare myself to her anymore. I can talk to her and I can soothe her because she was very hard on herself. But now I just want to feel good. I want to actually be healthy instead of appearing to be healthy. And I want to be able to ride my bike. And if I wear myself out trying to do things that I just can't do anymore, then I can't ride my bike, and I can't push myself to do something every once in a while, as opposed to daily sort of really pounding, but yeah, so I want to be healthy.
And what about, how old were you when you won the Tony Award for the producers?
36.
36. And did you feel after that, was there any, you felt like people are expecting you to show up as this bombshell in every audition afterwards, or did you not experience that?
Well, I already had that. I mean, I've been nominated for a Tony Award 10 years prior at 26.
Oh,
and
really?
for playing a bombshell. Yeah, for a show called The Will Rogers Follies, where I literally play Ziegfeld's favorite is her name.
Okay. So
I'm Mr. Ziegfeld's favorite showgirl. And that's where I sort of came onto the scene of Broadway. And so I had my own convoluted way of thinking about what I do, because I didn't think of myself as beautiful, but I knew that on stage I could create an image, create a fantasy. Cuckoo, cuckoo. But so I already thought that was my self-worth, was in my physical prowess and being that bombshell. And then, I mean, literally months before we went into rehearsal for the producers, I had just produced a feature film, thinking, all right, I'm just going to be a producer now. This acting thing isn't working anymore. And then I'm in the biggest hit on Broadway. It's just like that fucking carrot gets dangled. And there I am.
And now you're screwed for life. Now you're screwed.
Now I'm screwed for life.
You're Tony Award winning Cady Huffman.
Yeah, that's it. That's how I'm introduced.
You can't quit.
That's it. But I do produce more and I do direct more now. As I said, now I'm moving into more the cerebral side of things, though I'm still very good at performing, and I still love doing it. So.
And do you feel, because I've talked to, actually, I told you my sister's an actor also, and do you feel like the whole audition process and having that carrot dangled in front of you, is it kind of a way to take back control in industry to work on your own stuff and develop your own things that kind of keeps you sane? Or
it's a must. We don't get paid as much as we used to. The world has changed. We don't have healthcare anymore. Don't have this. It's not as easy to qualify for healthcare in my industry anymore. I used to get free healthcare just for being a member. And now I have to make a certain amount of money or have a certain amount of weeks. And because there is now reality television and all these different things, they don't pay you as much for anything. And I'm sort of cobbling together a living as a personality, as well as an actor, as well as a director. So it doesn't all go into the same union. So healthcare is tough. And I tell my young students, to start shooting stuff, write things, shoot your friends, which always makes me laugh because it sounds like I want you to shoot your friends. But, get your phone out. We all have these amazing cameras in our pockets now.
Mm.
You can start doing your own things, and you should. And I started doing that, as I said, early on, while we were still shooting things on film. But now it's just too easy, and there's just too much content out there. There's too many actors, there's too many, and now we're sort of churning out these prolific students who can all sing, act, dance to a certain extent. So we're all getting sort of homogenized. And you really have to learn who you are, because the only thing that any performer, and I guess any person, has that nobody else has is themselves. That's it. You are not the only person who can act, who can sing, who can dance. You're going to go get into the real world, and you're going to go, oh shit, right now everybody can do that to this level. You got to find out what makes you stick out, what makes you really buzz at a level that is your own. Did that make sense?
Yeah. Well, the only thing I want to ask, because I'm curious too, if you'll indulge me. How does something like a Tony Award happen? Is it the producers that kind of put you forward for it, or is it I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge honor, for one thing, but process is you have to be original cast in a Broadway show.
Yeah.
Or you have to open the show as this character, and then dependent on how reviews go and how the audiences receive it, the Tony nominators, the American Theater Wing does allow the producers to put you forward in the category that they want you to be put forward in.
Consideration.
So I was for consideration. Yeah. Like they put me forward in the featured actress category. But a lot of people think I should have been in the leading actress category. And I'm like, well, maybe. But that's only because I was the only woman. It's like there were other men in the featured category for that show who did more than I did in that show. So it's a combination. The producers are trying to figure out what's going to serve the show best.
Right.
So I was put forward in featured actress. I was nominated. And then for about a month, you're on this high of meeting everybody else who's nominated and going to brunches.
And who else was nominated that year? Because it was kind of incredible. God. Right?
Well, it's funny because there was Kate Levering for 42nd Street. There was Kathleen Freeman for The Full Monty, Polly Bergen for Follies. Help me if I'm forgetting somebody, but there was Kate, Kathleen, and Cady who were all, so I swear to God, when it became time for Doris Roberts, and the Tony Award goes to, and you just hear like time stopped, you hear like the seemed like it lasted 20
Everybody's
minutes.
Ready to stand.
Cady Huffman. And then I stand up and then I sit back down because I remember, oh, the husband's here. I better kiss him. Don't forget to kiss your husband. And then go up on, kind of float on stage. And I don't remember getting up on stage, but I remember turning around and seeing 6,000 people in Radio City Music Hall. But yeah, it's a process.
Did you think that was a possibility? Did you think in your head, maybe I might win this?
I did. Because I had already won the Drama Desk and the Outer Critics Circle Awards, which are the precursors to the Tonys. I had time to practice speeches and stuff. But you get to the Tony Awards, of course, nothing is guaranteed. And we won literally every category we could win. Literally every category we could win. So we had 15 nominations. We ended up taking home 12 awards, but that's just because
Wow.
we had doubles. We had three in the best featured actor and 2 in the best actor categories. So we won absolutely everything. So by the time it got to mine, we'd already won everything. The only things left were Nathan and the show. So everything else had happened. We just have Nathan in the show. I went, oh shit, it's me. I'm the one who's not going to win. Like we can't win everything. It's me. I'm not going to win this. But no, the possibility was absolutely there. But there is that moment of like,
Yeah.
this isn't going to happen. But it did. I mean, and wow, amazing.
Yeah. And where do you keep the Tony Award now? Is this a place where you can see it every day and be like, yeah, you're damn right? Or
fucking A. She's down in my living room. Is that where I have her? Yeah, I think she's in my living room. I can look at her whenever I want. I tell you, when I first won it, I did not put it out. And because I'm like, well, I won it. It seems kind of, strange to sort of promote myself in my own house. And then some really shitty things happened in this business. I was like, fuck this. She's coming out and I'm going to look at her every day. Say, I won that motherfucker. That's the truth. They can't take it away from me, no matter how much time goes by. So she is out and she's ready to be held if you want to hold her, and she's ready to be admired should you so desire to do that. And I have a lot of actors who come in and just stare because they think it's bad luck to touch one. So they just stare at it,
I think that's cool. Of course, we have a friend who uses Emmy Awards as doorstops.
Yeah. Oh, I have friends who have a lot of Emmys. I was nominated for
but I think it's
Emmys.
cool to have it at a spot of respect,
It is, and I have, then I have like a hallway that nobody sees where I have some random awards, but I keep the drama desk and the Tony out in the living room just in case somebody wants to look at it. But yeah, it's interesting. It's a mind fuck.
Well, thank you so much for doing this today. I think this was a really cool a message for
yeah, I just really want to encourage particularly women as we get older to not discourage ourselves by thinking that everything's impossible now that we're older.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's something about the way we have to start thinking about aging that is not popular in the United States right now anyway.
Yeah.
I traveled all over Asia, and where grandparents continue to live with the family and are continued to be at the top of the family and continue to be respected, and whatever they need, those families provide. And it was interesting. I was traveling. I know you're trying to wrap this thing up, but when I was traveling through Vietnam, the first question everybody there would ask me was how old I was, and I think I was 42 or something. And I thought, as an American, you're like, are you supposed to be asking me that? It's particularly as a woman, who cares? But I realized they were asking me because they wanted to know how to treat me.
Yeah.
Was I old enough? They were like, oh, no, we want to respect you. We want to know how to respect you.
It's even built into the language in a lot of Asian countries. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But
so
did you see Martha Stewart on the cover of Sports Illustrated?
Yeah. God bless.
That's
Go Martha.
something. Although,
as much as I don't buy her magazines or anything. Yeah.
I know I saw some stuff like maybe I saw a woman writing about it that that maybe that's like also a unrealistic goal to want to look like Martha Stewart at 81.
But she was gorgeous at 20. So there's no reason for her not to be gorgeous at 80. Yeah. The woman I look to the most is Helen Mirren. I just think she has always felt very comfortable in her own skin.
She just owns it wherever she,
whatever she is. She doesn't care if you can take a picture of her in her bathing suit. She's like, yep,
Yeah.
here you go.
But I think, it's like you think, oh, that's easy. You just decide to do that. But you really have to have that from the inside out. And it's like, it's kind of a lifelong journey. It's not something you just, no, I'm going to decide this today.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah,
yeah.
it really, and I tell you one thing that really turned something for me as well was my mother had this at 85, I think, had this serious surgery.
Mm.
And they had a ileostomy bag on her that was later reversed. She doesn't have it anymore, but at that point, so she had this major surgery and she needed a lot of care. And I was the one living with her in the hospital. So I saw her naked body a lot. And at 85, she looked so beautiful.
Mm.
I was like, and she still had on the weight, but I'm like, wow, I know the burden she has carried in not feeling beautiful. And I could see her right there, how beautiful she was. And I'm like, wow, this is a time for me to adjust the spiritual path to know that humans are beautiful. Like humans are beautiful. And I mean, I
Let's
have a
end on
girlfriend.
that. Humans are beautiful.
Humans are beautiful.
And you are beautiful. And thank you for doing this.
You're beautiful.